The rain came down in sheets that evening, soaking the cracked pavement and the worn-out shoes of Maria as she clutched her little boy's hand. Her coat was thin, barely keeping out the autumn chill. With the other hand, she held a small purse, one that felt far too light these days. Inside it clinked only a few coins. Just enough, she prayed, to buy a loaf of bread. Maria had been a single mother for 3 years now, ever since her husband walked out, leaving her with debts she never knew existed. She worked double shifts at a laundromat, scrubbing, folding, smiling through exhaustion, but her wages barely covered rent for their tiny apartment. Some nights dinner was nothing more than rice and salt. And tonight even that was gone. Her son Daniel, only 6 years old, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mama, will we eat tonight?" Maria forced a smile, though her chest ached. "Yes, my love, we'll have bread." Warm bread. When they entered the small bakery on the corner, the warmth of the ovens enveloped them like an embrace. The scent of fresh bread filled the air, making Maria's stomach tighten with both hunger and relief. She approached the counter, her fingers trembling as she counted out the coins. 1, 2, 3, 4, barely enough for a single loaf. The baker, a kind old man, wrapped the bread carefully and handed it to her. Maria exhaled, her heart easing just a little. This bread would at least keep Daniel's stomach full for tonight. She was about to thank him when a deep voice spoke behind her. "Excuse me, is that all you're getting?" Maria turned and saw a tall man in a sharp black coat. His shoes gleamed despite the rain outside, and a silver watch caught the light on his wrist. He looked every bit the man who had never known hunger, never known the taste of fear when pockets ran empty. She lowered her eyes quickly, embarrassed. "Yes, it's enough, thank you." But the man didn't move. Instead, he stepped closer, studying her face, then her son's small frame, his clothes a little too tight, his shoes worn at the edges. And then the man said something that made Maria freeze. "Get more. I'll pay for everything." Maria blinked, stunned. Surely she had heard wrong. People didn't just say things like that, especially not strangers in expensive coats. She shook her head. "No, sir. That's very kind, but I couldn't possibly. I insist." He interrupted gently, his tone firm yet soft. "Bread, milk, eggs, whatever you need. Please let me." Maria felt heat rise in her cheeks. She wasn't the kind of woman to accept charity easily. Pride had carried her this far. But then she looked at Daniel, whose eyes had lit up at the mention of milk, something he hadn't tasted in weeks. Her chest tightened, and she nodded slowly. The man smiled, a smile that carried no pity, only warmth. He turned to the baker. "Pack her the best. Bread, milk, cheese, fruit, whatever she and her boy need. Put it all on my tab." Maria tried to speak, to thank him, but her throat closed up. Tears blurred her vision. For years she had fought alone unseen. And now, a stranger was showing her more kindness than anyone had in so long. When the bags were packed, heavy with food, Maria could barely carry them. The man reached for one and said softly, "Let me help." Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. They walked together, the stranger carrying half the bags, Maria clutching Daniel's small hand. She finally found her voice. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know us." The man glanced at her, his eyes clouded with memory. "Because once a woman I didn't know helped me. I was a boy, not much older than your son. My mother was alone, and we had nothing. A stranger gave us food. That night, I promised myself if I ever had the chance, I would do the same." Maria's steps faltered. Her heart swelled at his words. She saw then that he wasn't just a wealthy man with a kind gesture. He was someone who remembered hunger. Someone who had walked a path not unlike hers. When they reached her apartment building, a run-down structure with peeling paint, Maria felt a sudden shame. But the man didn't flinch. He carried the bags right up to her door. She turned to him, tears streaking her cheeks. "I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head. "Don't thank me. Just promise me one thing. When life gives you the chance, pass it on." Maria nodded, her voice breaking. "I will. I promise." As he turned to leave, Daniel ran forward and hugged his leg tightly. The man froze, then bent down and hugged the boy back. For a brief moment, the man's eyes glistened as if he were holding not just Daniel, but his own childhood self. That night, Maria and Daniel sat at their small wooden table, eating bread with butter, drinking milk, their bellies full for the first time in weeks. Maria whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, not just for the food, but for the reminder that kindness still lived in the world. Years later, Maria's fortunes slowly changed. She found better work, saved what she could, and raised Daniel with the same spirit of generosity she had been shown that rainy night. And when Daniel grew older, he too remembered. Every time he saw someone struggling, he heard the words of that man echo in his heart, "Pass it on," because kindness, once given, never ends. It ripples through time, touching lives in ways we may never see. And maybe, just maybe, the bread that filled one child's stomach that night will one day fill the world with hope.